Welcome to Bridging the Gap to Connections, the talk show, where we begin by sharing your stories and spotlighting your shine. Welcome back to Bridging the Gap to Connections. This is Darla Williams here, and today's feature is with Gwenno Dafydd, if I pronounced it correctly. I have had to practice that one. Her name is actually quite difficult for me, and I actually had to practice for a minute. I figured I'd break it with a little notice to, sometimes it's hard to work with different people's names, and when you're going about it, don't worry about it. Don't stress it. Just know that if you have a little bit of practice and a little know-how, you get things done. So today, without any further ado, I want to go ahead and talk to about Gwyneth for a second. Who is she and what does she do? Gwenno Dafydd has a master's in social science. ECon Women's Studies brings 3 strands of expertise to her work. A professional career in broadcasting and performance since 1980, equal opportunities and diversity at broad SME level and coaching at leadership level since 1998. In professional development and public speaking, a global podcaster on many subjects relating to leadership and breaking through the glass ceiling. She has clients in India, America, Turkey, Greece, Spain, Canada, and Australia. The published author of Stand Up and Sock It to Them, Sister, Funny Feisty Females. She writes lyrics and performs a one-woman show about the French singer Edith Piaf. Without any further ado, Gwenno, let me go ahead and welcome you. Hi, hon. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Daryl. It's great to be here. Who is this amazing woman? She sounds fascinating. I'd love to meet her.
Right? What I want to do is I want to ask you, I know that we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that you're a coach, but you have a little bit of a quirky, unique way that you have blended a couple different things together and making it where it is really helping people at large. So I want to ask you, how did you even come to it? What is your coaching first? And how did you come to make that be?
Okay, well, I think it all started when I was about 11 and I fell in love with running. And I used to go and do cross-country running all over the place and basically was really good at it. And then I started coaching kids. So basically, I would start to set goals with them. I would look at the things that were stopping them. And I didn't realize that what I was doing was actually coaching. I decided I was going to be a physical education teacher. And that's all I did. I focused on that my entire time in school, and then went to college and started training as a PE teacher, but had to give up after one term, which was heartbreaking because I had a condition called chondromalacia patella. However, that led me into an entirely different direction. So I've always coached. I've always, my running was something which set me up in great stead for my life. And there were certain things that were really, really key and important, which was basically to make the best of whatever you have in your life. Now, the story has many ins and outs. I After going to college, I realized that my dream of being a physical education teacher was not going to come to fruition, because if I continued in doing what I was doing, I was going to end up either with a new knee in 1975 or I would be walking with a stick. So neither of those 2 options were something I wanted. So I changed direction. I was already doing drama and I loved to perform. I used to love singing. I used to love making people laugh. And so I focused more on the drama. And I also studied the Welsh language. You probably work out that I am Welsh. My surname is Williams, like yours. But my name is Gwenno Dafydd. That's how we say it. Gwenno Dafydd. It's very difficult for anybody outside of Wales to actually get to grips with that pronunciation, but that's how we say it. So I then went to Belgium to be an au pair. And because I didn't want to be a teacher really, because the love of my life, athletics, was no longer possible. So anyway, I taught English as a foreign language and started performing, and then came back to Britain in 1983 and got my equity card, which is our Actors Union card. And since that time, I've been a professional performer and broadcaster. Then I when in my mid-30s, my daughter was born, and I found that the traveling away, as I had been doing for performing, was no longer possible. My husband at the time was working a lot away in America, Amsterdam, all sorts of places north of England, Ireland. So I changed direction. I did a master's degree in women's studies because I knew I was passionate about women's development. So that's where I got my master's degree from. The intention originally was to direct television programs about women and their lives, because I'd already been directing theatre in education, and I loved that process of taking part of a project and developing it and making sure that it had, quality at the end of it. But that actually coincided with a time when the television industry was changing. So I then went to work in equality and diversity, which I feel passionately about anyway. Then I did that for many, many years. I was the campaign manager for Opportunity 2000 throughout Wales. And then in 2008, we had to reapply for work I'd been doing for the Welsh Government at the time as an equality expert. And I just got to the point and I thought, I'm bored with this. And what I realized was what I actually loved was the coaching element of it, the developmental side, the setting targets, the same sort of things that I'd been doing as an 11, 12-year-old. So I retrained and I got an Institute of Leadership Management, level 7, which is the highest you can get as a coach. And then started working with heads of industry in Wales, and also anybody who wanted to progress and reach their full potential. So I combined that with my knowledge of performance, and my passionate belief is that to be a great leader, you have to be a great public speaker. And so those two join together. And I do believe that there's nobody in Britain, possibly throughout the world, who knows, who has combined all of those elements into one package. And so my passion is to develop women to their full potential. I'll work with men, obviously, but I really want to work with women because women have a set of circumstances that men don't have to deal with, such as harassment and feeling that they're not as good as men, and all of those other issues that I'm able to unfold for them and work through them.
How absolutely unique how you have gone from going forward to being in the educational department to finding your way all the way over, but you're still educating in a different dynamic. Here you are now. So if you were to paraphrase what we just went over, because it was a lot of information there, just a quick paraphrase, if they were coming to you for coaching, what are they going to be able to gain from coming to you? What is the actual package that you're handing someone else?
I unleash potential. And a friend of mine said to me one day, she said, I wish I could unleash my inner Gwenno, because I get on with things, I do things, I achieve things. I've overcome so many barriers in my own life. I understand what those barriers are. and I've had imposter syndrome like you don't know what. I unleash potential. It's that simple.
That is an amazing quality to be able to help people through, because that means that you have the resilience. You've been able to overcome it yourself. If you're able to help people to identify their own potential, you've obviously done some back work. So being able to say that, yes, I help people unleash their potential, what is it that you really focus on with people in regards to doing that, so that people understand what route they need to begin starting with you? What is that problematic area that makes them go, oh, I need Gwenno?
Well, every single person's different, and lots of people have varying needs. I'm not prescriptive. I work with the individual who's in front of me. We start off with a tool which will identify those areas that they might have difficulty with, which could be delegation, assertiveness, time management. It depends, whatever it is, public speaking, confidence issues, all of those things build up to the person. And I will start with a life wheel, and I'll have two different wheels, one to do with their business, one to do with their own personal lives. And what I will find is that those weaknesses that they have in their business lives will also be reflected in their personal lives. So we will start working, we will set goals, and we'll try and identify what those barriers are. Who told them that they couldn't do something? Someone's told you that you're not very good at maths. Someone told you you can't draw. Someone told you you're not very confident. Someone told you, so we'll try and uncover who told you that, whether that person is you or not, because I will be looking for evidence to see, why do you think that? And I've got lots and lots of different techniques. I use a lot of neuro-linguistic programming to anchor confidence or happiness or whatever those positive attributes are that you need to push you further along your journey to being the best possible version of you. Everybody's best possible version is different. What I can achieve in a day is not the same as, for example, a great leader could. Barack Obama could probably do 10 times as much as me in a day. But that's my best potential. So that's what I would work for. I would work with those people to achieve what they can achieve, something realistic. I wouldn't push anybody really too far out of their comfort zone. However, saying that, so many people are just quite secure and nice in their comfort zone. And I always say life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. And so we work with 3 rings. So I would start the central ring would be my comfort zone. Where do you feel comfortable? And then there's the risk, which is, where do you think, this is getting a bit scary now? And then the outside circle would be panic. So my central circle would be doing podcasts, doing live television, standing in front of 3,000 people talking. That's my comfort zone. My risky area would be, well, I don't know really. I don't have many risky areas. I don't think I'd like to swim with sharks. My panic area would be having a 9 to 5 job. I couldn't cope with that at all. So you see, everybody's comfort zones are very different. So I'd work with individuals according to their needs.
So you really do help people to identify where they're at so that they can get to the next phase. So tell me, what is the passion behind that? What was your why that brought you to this place?
Because I've always done it. Because I've always felt passionately about enabling people. I've done it throughout my life. I've always tried to help people because why? It makes me happy. And I remember on my wedding day, somebody came up to me, and I hadn't seen her for, I don't know, 30 years maybe. And this young woman, well, she wasn't young by the time I met her the second time, but she was a young woman in secondary school. And she probably had learning difficulties, right? Because she was a very clever cookie. And I'd spotted that in her, but because She hadn't done well academically. She probably had dyslexia. She was put into one of the low forms. But I believed in her. And she came up to me on my wedding day and she said, Gwenno, she said, you were the only person who believed in me. And I did believe in her. And although she wasn't able to make a huge success of her own life, both her children went to university because she started believing in them. She also tried to find help for them. Nobody done that for her, but I believed in her. I tried to support her and tried to get her to get help. So when you ask me why, because it makes me happy. I love seeing people succeed. I love it. I genuinely do.
See, that is such a great gift. When you wake up and you're doing the things that you want to do, that you're actually achieving the things that are really written into your heart, being able to live your true authenticity, getting up every day and being authentically you, being able to reach people the way that you desire. What would you tell others who are aspiring to do something like that right now? Because you are achieving that and you're already in that element. How would you aspire someone, to speak to someone who's aspiring to be like you?
Well, I would say that I've had several knocks in my life. I have had periods of deep depression, I would call it, really, on reflection. I didn't realize. And I always used to sort of shake myself off and just get back on. And another one of my favorite expressions is when you fall off the horse, get back on it before it gallops off into the dust. And that's so, so true. There are lots of days because I suffer with daily chronic pain, and that's another subject for another time if you want to find out more about that. But there were times when I was in a wheelchair, and there were times when I had to walk with a stick, and I used to hate all of that. I really did. And I had sciatica for 9 consecutive years. It was absolute murder. But I did end up in 2 pain clinics. One suggested I have an epidural injection once every 6 weeks for the rest of my life. I said, no, thank you very much. Because I think she was about 8 at the time. My daughter was 8 years of age. And though every single epidural injection carried a danger, and I wasn't prepared to risk that with my daughter. And the other pain clinic taught me 2 very, very important things. And I will share those with you. And the first one was, do not focus on the things that you can't do. You must focus on what you can do. And I'll go back to that. And the other thing was, if something is worth the pain, then do it. So going back to what I could do, even when I had those 9 awful years of sciatica and 4 blue consecutive disabled badges, which they don't give you in this country unless you're seriously unwell, right? So I had those for 9 years. At that time, I could still sing, I could still write, I could still make people laugh, although sometimes I didn't want to laugh. And so I focused on those things that I could do at that time. And what actually is always worth the pain is running, believe it or not. So, and I love climbing mountains and I love singing in a choir. Standing is incredibly problematic and painful for me, but I will dose up with painkillers before I do something. And when my daughter was 30 years of age, I climbed Snowdon ar Wyddfa, which is Wales's highest mountain, and I did it with her, and I had to take loads of painkillers before I did it. But the thing is, afterwards, no one is going to ever take that away from us, either of us. What a memory, it's amazing. So, obviously, you've got to be careful about how you deal. I mean, I usually take 2 painkillers a day. So going back to that thing, there have been times when I've wallowed in pity, but I only allow it to happen. I will have a pity party if I'm in a great deal of pain, but I'll try not to allow it to spill out to other people because that's not fair. I've been very unfortunate to have been in 3 serious car accidents where they were rear shunts, two rear shunts. One was with 4 vehicles, which was the start of the problem. Then there was another rear shunt in, I think it was 88. And then there was a side shunt in the year 2000, which nearly killed us as a family. And of course, I have a little pity party every now and again. It's only normal. Living in pain is horrible. I hate it. I wish my life were different, but it's not. This is my life. I have two choices. Either I get on with it as best as I can or give into it. And I'm not doing that for anybody. My life is too precious. So, you know, when people come to me, and I will just say, yeah, have a little pity party, but don't expect me to join in.
You know, everyone needs to acknowledge where they're at. And that's what you're saying. You know what? You take your moment to have your pity party, as you put it. And a lot of people are like, get hung up in that space. What you're saying is it's okay to feel how you feel, but don't get stuck there. I love how you put that. You know, we don't have to stay stuck in it. We can acknowledge it. We can acknowledge ourselves exactly where we're at, but we don't have to stay. What a, you know, great skill, knowing that, you know, anybody that's coming to you is going to be able to say, okay, I'm going to someone who really knows. You see them, you hear them, and you understand them because you have gone through your own circumstances. And I have to say, you can go to, and I'm not discrediting anyone, but you can go to certified people, but that doesn't mean they're always qualified. And what we're hearing right now today in listening to Gwenno's story is she's really qualified. She knows where you're at. She can actually meet you in those places that feel dark and painful and horrific. We all have those times in our life where life can become very overwhelming. And it is absolutely okay to seek those that can help us. And I really am so grateful, Gwenno, that I have the opportunity to really talk to you and get to know you more. What do we call your company? What is your name of your business?
Gwenno Dafydd.
Okay, so it is your name.
Yeah, it's Gwenno Dafydd.
Find you. That makes it easy to find you. So, how can people locate you? What is your website?
Well, it's Gwenno Dafydd. But I also have a Linktree, which I think is very useful nowadays to people in business. My Linktree will give you all the sort of television productions I've been in, lots of coaching testimonials from across the world, public speaking testimonials, all the stuff about my book, the stuff I've been doing for St. David's Day, which is our patron saint. It's got loads and loads and loads of stuff there. So it's Linktree, Gwenno Dafydd. That's GWENNODAF for Freddie, YDD. Linktree.
Perfect. I will also make sure that if you guys look down in the description underneath the video, you'll be able to go straight to her and just click in and go straight to Gwenno. So you just mentioned books. And I was saying it also when we were reading your bio at the beginning of the episode here. We were talking about the fact that you have several different writings and published books and different things that you've already accomplished so far. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, going back to my mid-30s, I wanted to... Going back to my mid-30s, I wanted to have a qualification which would enable me to make films about women and about women's lives. I worked with a fabulous company called Taliesin, and I wanted to have some credibility with them. So I went and did a master's degree in sociology in women's studies. And as part of that, I had to do a thesis focusing on women in an area where women weren't prolific. And because of my passion with comedy, I wanted to look at women doing stand-up comedy. So I interviewed 5 people who were very well known in Britain, and it was extremely well received. I wanted to find the barriers. Why were there not so many women working in that environment? And then they said, oh, you should write a book about it. You should write a book about it. Well, if I'd known it was going to take me 20 years, I would have said, no, thanks. But it did take me 20 years. And from an original 5 interviewees, I ended up having 94 interviewees worldwide, and including people like Joan Rivers, lots of American, Betsy Salkind, who is one of the original people starting out in comedy, Jeff Scott, who's a pianist in the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. I wanted to have a worldwide view. I had the first disabled, first Black, first Muslim, smallest, tallest, oldest, youngest, the whole lot. And basically, I wanted to have their stories. So the book is full of stories, but because of my passion about women in comedy, it's about women in comedy. But the glass ceiling is the glass ceiling wherever, whatever you do. It's made up of exactly the same things. So you could look at this book and say, well, this is about education, politics, architecture, broadcasting, whatever, medicine. The glass ceiling is exactly the same. You know, it's a man's world out there, and we have to work so hard to get through those barriers. And I feel now in America that there are things that we are going backwards, and those issues are starting to permeate through in Britain, with the far right trying to get women to be back in the home. And I vehemently oppose all of this. So I will continue to work for women's rights until my dying day, because I think we have so much to offer. Society is far richer when we have a voice in the things, the decisions that are made. So going back to the book, although it was about women in comedy, it's actually about women trying to break through the glass ceiling of wherever, in a funny way.
Wow. I love the fact that you are about women's rights, making sure that women are actually on the forefront as well, being out there, being able to be heard, the notoriety of our voice and our thoughts, and how important and imperative it is that we be seen and heard as well. That is such an amazing work that you are doing, and I'm grateful for women like yourself who have stood in the gap to make ways for us to actually have our voices heard, our messages come through, and that we can actually stand in those pivotal moments, those professional spaces, to actually be able to bring our intellect to life in real time. Those things are so vitally important.
Yeah, and not only our voices, but our stories, because history is his story. What I've collated is the history of women in comedy, going all the way back to musical and before that, because that history is invisible. It doesn't exist. Nobody has collated this before.
How amazing is it? You know, I know that women's live in the States really started in 1963. You know, and that was really, I mean, that's so young in regards to women's rights. You know, that's just in the US, you know, and around the world, it's even small, you know, shorter times, because women have been suppressed for generation after generation after generation to be seen and not heard. And what a gift it is that you're not only bringing the truth behind, but you're allowing women to actually find and shine their light in that joy, the joyous places as well. You know, with comedy, you know, being able to cut up, have fun, and be real, and just be unique all the way around. What is your most, oh, I can tell you had something you want to say.
I did, yeah. I wanted to say that unless we have positive role models, how can we aspire to do that thing? For example, the American Wales connections. You have an amazing woman, or you had an amazing woman called Amelia Earhart. She flew across from America across the Atlantic and landed on a beach called Kevin Sidan, which means silky back, and that is in Wales. That's where she landed. And before that, there were no role models for aspiring pilots or aspiring aeronauts or anything. When we have role models, we can see that someone has achieved something that we might want to do. We can look at their lives, we can see how they've managed to overcome all of those barriers that may present themselves. And that's the most important thing about my book. It's chock-a-block full of role models who are immensely powerful. They've said, I want to do comedy. It's a male-only space. I'm going there. I'm doing this.
And that is, you've really helped open doors then for women to finally step out as well. When they read your book, it probably really empowers people to actually go forth to find their dreams and do their, their desires. And that's what we all should be doing anyways.
I agree. And also, your very own Kamala Harris, she's an incredible woman. And she has been such an incredible role model for Black young women, to actually think she can do that. She was so close to it. I can do that. And you're seeing more and more Black and minority ethnic women going into politics. It's a dirty business. And actually, there are only two places in society where women have a voice. And one is in stand-up comedy and the other one is in politics. And in fact, you have way more freedom in politics, in stand-up comedy than you do have there are two places in society where you have freedom to express your own experience in life. One is in politics and the other one is in stand-up comedy as a woman. And I believe strongly that you have even more power when you speak in stand-up comedy than you do when you're in politics. And I've got several politicians in my book who are also very, very funny women, and very many stand-up comics who are extremely political. And there's a very close connection there. So, I'm sure Kamala Harris is very funny as well.
How awesome is this? You have, like I was reading, you have Sock It to Him Sister. You have what was it called with Feisty in it for women?
No, that's the same book. Stand Up and Sock It to Them Sister, Funny Feisty Females.
Okay, and then you have something that you have done that represents some of our history in regards to writing a song.
Yeah. Well, I write lots and lots of songs, to be honest. I write the lyrics. I don't write the music. I collaborate usually. There's three songs that I'm particularly proud of that are doing really well at the moment. The first one is an anthem I co-created with someone called Heilwen Thomas. She wrote the music. I wrote the words in Welsh and English. And that one is doing extremely well. It's considered the anthem for St. David's Day. St. David is our patron saint. There's another song that I've co-written with Catherine Cole, who I now write with, and that one is called Hear Sound of Dragons Roaring, and that I made a film with that, and that film is shown at every single Yes Cymru protest. Now, Yes Cymru is the organisation that's pushing forward for independence for my country, Wales, and I'm extremely proud about that. There's another song that I really like, which is something I wrote with my mother. My mother wrote the original poem. I made it into a song lyric. I gave it to Catherine Cole again, and I translated it into English. And this is a song called Jemima's Ballad. And Jemima Nicholas was a warrior woman, a wild Westphalian warrior woman from Fishguard, which is where I grew up. And she was my role model. She lived in 1797. She was a local cobbler. And in that year, three battleships came from France with the intention of coming to invade Britain, they came up from France and went up through Milford Haven, or they thought they were going to Milford Haven, which is in the south of Pembrokeshire, but they actually came to the quaint little town of Fishguard, where I was brought up, and they landed on a place called Carreg Wastad, which means flat rock, and most of them were drunk after having gone to a wedding party where they drank the cellar dry. And Jemima Nicholas, who was the local cobbler, very tall woman, she rounded up her women. All the men from the town had gone to the south of the county thinking that the French warriors were going to be down there. She rounded them up. She got them all around the Bigney Hill, and she walked them round and round and round. And the French soldiers thought that there was a huge battalion of Welsh warriors, because they were they were wearing their tall chimney hats, their red shawls made of wool, and Jemima herself rounded up 14 soldiers with a pitchfork and got them to surrender on Goodwick Sands. So the song is about Jemima and what she did. And recently I sang that they did a recreation of the invasion. And so I sang it outside the pub in Fishguard, which is called the Royal Oak, where our First Minister came. Our First Minister is called Eluned Morgan, and I sang the song in Welsh and English whilst they were signing the declaration saying that the French had surrendered. So those three songs I'm particularly proud of, but I've written loads of other lyrics, and I've co-written a song recently with somebody in Los Angeles, and that one is called Hear Sound, no, what's it called? I'm trying to think now. Oh yeah, When You Called Out for an Angel. And this is a song written with someone who writes music for films. And yeah, so I love writing lyrics. It's much easier than writing a book. Writing a book took me 20 years. Writing a lyric can take me an afternoon, so it's all good. I much prefer that. And I've written loads and loads of children's poetry. I've written a one-woman show. I've written lots of projects for theatre and education, articles, whatever. I just love the written word. So again, going back to what could I do? I could always write. So, and the first time I ever did well writing was under the age of 8. So I must have been about 7.5. And I wrote a short story and sent it into this competition, which was Wales wide. And we have an organisation called the Urdd, which is the Welsh League of Youth. And they had a competition, and apparently hundreds of kids sent in a little short story, and I was the one who won. So I won my first certificate at the age of 8, 7, whatever. So the Urdd Eisteddfod is an organisation that it's the biggest youth festival in all of Europe, and thousands of people take part in it every year. And it just is a showcase for Welsh culture. We sing, we recite, there are choirs, there are bands, there are all sorts of things, writing competitions, all sorts. And so this is it's one of the central pivots of the Welsh culture, really.
How incredible. I know that I could spend all day long talking to you because you are such an incredible person. You have spent time in life really taking on great projects and accomplishing much. So I want to ask you if you could leave everyone with a final word that you know is absolutely important that you need to get out there, what would you like to share?
Well, I've told you about some of my mottos. The one I will share is if you fall off the horse, get back on it as quickly as you possibly can before it gallops off into the dust. But my favorite one is, if it's to be, it's up to me. Basically, what that means is don't expect anybody to create your success. It's never, ever going to happen. You've got to make that decision to pick up the phone and get in touch with me, and I will support you and I will help you along your way, but you're going to have to do the hard work.
Absolutely. Well, everyone out there, thank you for joining us again on another episode of Bridging the Gap to Connections. This is Darla, and we definitely featured Gwenno. Today has been absolutely beautiful, and I look forward to seeing you on another episode. Bye for now.
That would be great. Look forward to that.